AM 1450, FM 99.3, KNSI, back, ladies and gentlemen, with Taking You Home, VoigtJohnson Real Estate. It happens every Thursday morning at 7:23, Saturday morning at 7:50 here on KNSI. Brandon Johnson is with us, his partner Heidi Voigt. Are we ever going to be able to get her in here?
I hope so. She's so busy out selling that
is she shy?
No, she is not shy. She's not shy. We'll get her in here soon enough.
All right, good. I want to ask you a little bit about something that has really plagued central Minnesota the past couple of years, right? I know a lot of builders, I know a lot of remodelers, that sort of thing. They have been backed up with all of this storm damage, right?
Yes.
Whether it's roofs being repaired, siding being replaced, windows, what have you. And this kind of enters into the whole real estate conversation, I think. Let's talk a little bit about storm damage. And I have a question here, okay?
Yeah.
Here's one. My wife and I purchased our home in May of last year. Nothing was disclosed to us about hail damage that occurred to our roof before we closed. About a week after the closing, a contractor said all of our neighbors have damage, and we likely do too. They inspected our roof and said there is significant storm damage. Are we able to have the seller pay for the new roof that is needed? Great question.
It is, and that's really been, this was my life in a nutshell in the last, all of summer and fall, is dealing with this because we've had so many repeated storms in the St. Cloud area, right? So this is not an uncommon question. The nature, I want to take a step back and just say, what is a seller's responsibility or duty to disclose? They're required to disclose any material fact, something that may or may not adversely affect the new home buyer's use and enjoyment of the home that they are aware of. Now, the question is, was the seller in this scenario, were they aware of it?
How could you not be?
If it was a vacant home, you were living down south, there's a lot of scenarios. If this was in May, I'm presuming we had storms in May, did they move out a week prior and the storm hit the day before, something like that? So there are a lot, and then you have, and not to get into this, you have storm chasers that find damage too, right? So you have all these dynamics. The key thing to say here is, you need to contact the listing agent. And let me back up again. When we had these storms in May, and this is the importance of having representation, of a buyer's realtor that's really acting. We had a meeting internally, and I said, if you have a buyer with a pending contract, you need to reach out to that listing agent, that seller, and get the homes inspected, because I believe the burden is on the buyer to discover that. Yes, the seller is supposed to disclose, but if you're representing that buyer, you need to go out and proactively discover that prior to closing.
Well, let's look back at what was going on here a year ago when you had rates that were 3.5%, right, and people were blowing off those inspections. Not a good thing.
Which compounds the problem. But in this scenario, and we've dealt with this, it is possible, if you go back to the seller, you can still, most insurance agencies still allow a seller to make an insurance claim on the property if the damage, and they have all this software, these insurance companies know down to the neighborhood when and where it happened. So they can still theoretically make a claim and get the roof, if the insurance company approves the claim. The question is then, is there replacement cost? The insurance is only going to cover two sides of the siding, so you get into all of this. And so, yes, it is still possible. Now, is the seller necessarily required to make a claim? Maybe, maybe not, right? But for most, and we've been on the other side representing sellers where we try and advocate that process. And then the seller needs to have representation in that case too, because you don't want to sign something that says, yes, we'll replace the roof, and then the insurance company says, well, we're only going to give you partial credit. Or you want to say, and this is what we advise our sellers, is we'll work with you, we'll give you whatever our insurance company approves. So it is important, in this scenario, it is important for both sides to have proper representation.
Okay, so that's specifically, we're talking about storm damage, right? I'll tell you something that happened to me is I purchased a home, and about a week after we were in fact, less than a week after we were in, the furnace got red flag. So we were with no heat, right? So the sellers were, quote unquote, kind enough to come back to us and say, sure, we will put that new furnace in for you. But you know who made that happen was my realtor.
And so that gets into, when when did the furnace become faulty?
Right.
Is the question. When did the seller become aware of it? Because it's not enough to move into a house a week after and the roof leak.
Yeah.
As a buyer, would have to demonstrate that the seller knew the roof leaked and didn't tell you. So you can kind of see the threshold here for that.
And you had mentioned the importance of having the home inspection. We had a home inspection done and all of that.
Yeah.
But you don't really get to see that crack heat exchanger unless you're in there really looking. And I don't know how often that takes place.
Most inspectors will open up the furnace and look at it. To what degree? Like everything, different inspectors there's different quality of every industry, right?
Yep,
and
different levels.
Yep. And so it depends on the level of the home inspector. But like you alluded to, is a year ago when everybody, in order to get a home, you had to waive the home inspection.
Right.
As a unintended consequence of that, we've seen unprecedented levels of litigations and arbitrations between buyers and sellers because these things are not getting discovered.
Sure.
And so, again, it's hard because you may never. Some homes you had to waive the home inspection to be considered by the seller, but there are risks involved. And that's part of the thing our agents do is we talk down and say, especially first-time home buyers, that sort of thing. You can still bring an inspector in and you're showing if you do it right. So there's ways around it.
Yeah. At the beginning of our conversation, I asked you, how would someone not know that they had damage to their roof? And you had mentioned a vacant house, right? Maybe the sellers were gone. That is exactly what had happened here. This house had been empty for about 2.5 months going into the winter. They didn't know.
And so every transaction is almost a case study in itself.
Right.
So it's hard to say uniformly how does a seller know. There are scenarios where, it's plausible for a seller to be not liable for what's happened, even though you think in most occurrences they should know.
Right. Now, again, I'm going to go back to the relationship thing here. It is so important that you are working with the right realtor, which is why this program is here, taking you home with VoigtJohnson Real Estate. We've been talking with Brandon Johnson, and you can hear the show Thursday morning at 7:30, Saturday morning at 7:50 here on KNSI, VoigtJohnson.com. Brandon, what's your phone number?
320-774-2400.
AM 1450, FM 99.3, KNSI. Brandon, thank you.
Thank you.